Today we're breaking down the rise and fall of Suge Knight, one of the most feared, most ruthless, and most unhinged men to ever step foot in the hip-hop industry.
They was not scared of Suge Knight. They was terrified of Suge Knight.
Right.
I mean, terrified.
This dude had the world in his palm, multi-platinum records, the baddest rappers in the game, and more muscle around him than a weigh-in at the UFC. But instead of protecting the empire he built, he let pride, paranoia, and violence burn it to the ground. In this video, we're diving into everything from how he threatened to throw Vanilla Ice off the balcony, how he shook down Eazy E to steal Dr. Dre, how he bailed out Tupac and basically launched the East vs West Coast war, and how he ended up knocked out in clubs, snitching on Akon's team, and doing 28 years in prison for a hit and run that killed his own friend. From Death Row Records to Death Row behavior, this is the wild story of Suge Knight. Let's get into it. Suge Knight stole Vanilla Ice's money to start Death Row Records.
This big guy walks up, he says, "Hey, I'm Suge Knight." He says, "Let me talk to you for a minute. Ice, if you got a second, let me just talk to you."
It's 1990. Vanilla Ice is actually the first rapper to go #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. But behind the scenes, Suge Knight's circling like a vulture waiting for Vanilla Ice. See, a dude from Suge's crew, Mario Chocolate Johnson, claimed he helped write Ice Ice Baby. Vanilla Ice to this day says the dude had nothing to do with the writing of Ice Ice Baby.
Who is Mario Lavelle Johnson? His name is listed.
That's the guy that Suge Knight brought over there that was an acquaintance of mine that had nothing to do with that song.
But Suge, he doesn't care if the dude actually wrote it or not. Suge sees this as a way to make a shit ton of money. So Suge shows up to Vanilla Ice's hotel like it's a GTA side mission. He just comes barging in saying his boy Chocolate wrote the song for Ice and he wants Vanilla Ice to give him all the publishing rights to the song.
I had my bodyguards who had guns, and they had their people which had guns, and they had us outpowered and outnumbered.
He then slaps Vanilla Ice's bodyguard, and Vanilla Ice's bodyguard is just as scared as Ice.
Roughed one of my bodyguards up. They roughed everybody else and my whole entourage up. Suge took me out on the balcony, started talking to me personally, like 15 floors. He had me look over the edge, show me how high I was up there.
Suge threatened him and threatened to throw him off the balcony. Vanilla Ice, he's scared for his life.
Are you scared? I needed to wear a diaper on that day.
So straight away he signs over the royalties, the publishing, the rights, all of it. That one Ice Ice Baby check, Suge uses it to fund Death Row Records. That's right, The Chronic, Doggy Style, All Eyes on Me, built on money Suge took from Vanilla Ice. So next time you hear Ice Ice Baby, remember that song funded the rise of the most gangster rap label of all time. But Suge, he wasn't done. That balcony was just the appetizer. Next up, the main course was signing Dr. Dre to Death Row Records. If you thought shaking down Vanilla Ice was wild, wait till you hear how Suge Knight rolled up on Eazy E, threatened his family, and made him sign over Dr. Dre's contract like it was a ransom note.
Suge tried to destroy my record company.
It's the early 90s, NWA is falling apart. Dr. Dre, the sound wizard behind the music, is sick of Jerry Heller, the shady white manager of Ruthless Records. Jerry starts playing favorites, specifically favoring Eazy E. Dre and Ice Cube are getting paid peanuts, and Eazy E is making bank. So Ice Cube bounces in 1990 and leaves Ruthless. Then Dre feels like he's being played, so by 91, Dr. Dre wants to leave too. Dre's fed up, so he calls in the rap boogeyman, Suge Knight. Dre basically says, "Yo, Suge, get me the fuck out of Ruthless." Suge's like, "Say less." So Suge shows up with a crew of people packing pipes and baseball bats. They corner Eazy E in a studio and present him with an offer he can't refuse. Suge basically lets Eazy know that this is dead serious. He tells him point blank that Eazy's family is in danger if Dre isn't released. Suge hands Eazy a piece of paper with Eazy's own mother's address on it. And Suge goes, "I know where your mama stays." Eazy E was a tough dude, but this shook him up. So Eazy decided to sign the papers, and in that moment, Dr. Dre and his ally the DOC were officially free from Ruthless. That was the end of the NWA, and Dr. Dre escapes Ruthless and immediately teams up with Suge Knight to launch Death Row Records. Now here's where things go from crazy to insane. There's a conspiracy that Suge Knight may have killed Eazy E by injecting him with AIDS. After Dre leaves Ruthless Records and starts Death Row Records, he drops The Chronic in 1992. One of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time. It's right here on the shirt. On one of his tracks, Fuck With Grey Day, Dre and Snoop Dogg clown Eazy E, calling him Sleazy E, mocking his look, his voice, his business, his entire existence. And in the video, they got a fake Eazy E begging for food with a cardboard sign. Eazy fires back. Eazy E wasn't just gonna sit there and get roasted. He drops real motherfucking G's in 93, a direct response to Dre Day. Calls Dre a studio gangster, says he used to wear glitter and lipstick back in his world-class Wrecking Crew days, and Eazy brought receipts with him, actual photos of Dre looking like a disco drag queen. He also dragged Suge, calling him a fake-ass gangster hiding behind threats. This track goes hard and ended up charting on the Billboard Hot 100. It gave Eazy E a second win. Now 2 years after this, Eazy E dies from AIDS. Now here's where things get dark. Years after Eazy's death, Suge Knight goes on Jimmy Kimmel in 2003 and drops a line so unhinged it made the devil raise an eyebrow.
So if you shoot somebody, you go to jail forever. Some kids, you don't want to go to jail forever, right? So they got this new thing out there. People sell them all the time. They got this stuff they get blood from somebody with AIDS, and then they shoot you with it.
Oh,
so
well, that seems bad.
That's a slow death.
Yeah.
An Eazy E thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, no. Okay.
You could literally feel the whole crowd snap out of their laughter like, wait, did this dude just casually confess to a hit on national fucking TV? Did Suge kill Eazy? Well, there's no proof. No charges, but something was definitely off. How does a healthy dude go from the studio to the coffin in a couple weeks? Suge Knight, he loved stoking the fire, and he got just close enough to sound guilty, but never close enough to catch a case. Now, just after Suge and Dre created Death Row, Suge turned a Hollywood recording studio into a hostage scene, then greased his way out of prison. It's 1992. Dr. Dre's cooking some heat for Death Row, and he invites two up-and-coming rappers, Linwood and George Stanley, to the studio. So they're chilling, Dre's there, the music's bumping, then Linwood picks up a phone call. Now Suge rolls in at the same time looking like a fucking mob boss, but Suge was waiting for one of his boys to call him from prison, so he wanted that phone line empty because his boy only gets one call a day. So Suge tells the dude, hang that shit up. Linwood, bless his heart, decides he's got the balls to talk back to Suge Knight that day and basically told him not to bother with his gangster shit. Well, Suge Knight just looked back and smiled, pulled out his .38 and shot the wall behind them 2 times. He puts the brothers on their knees, fires a shot into the floor. The 2 brothers are already basically shitting themselves at this point, but just to make his point clearer, he pistol whips Linwood so hard the man probably saw his childhood flash by. He tells both of them to strip off their clothes. The Stanleys are now standing there in their boxes shaking like leaves with Suge towering over them. Suge beats them up some more. He snatches Linwood's wallet, checks the ID and says, I don't know if I should let you live or kill you. If you talk, I'll have my people kill your family. He finally leaves the room, leaving the brothers half naked, bleeding and traumatized as hell. The brothers must have been deaf because they didn't listen to anything. They ran out and snitched on Suge Knight straight away. So you'd think a guy who just threatened to murder 2 dudes would be heading straight to jail, but Suge Knight's got more lawyers than the Vatican's got candles, and he's got a plan. Let's buy our way out of this. Suge slides the brothers an offer they can't refuse. $1 million each, record deals on Death Row. Basically, they got paid, got signed, and were told to shut the fuck up. The prosecutors straight up admitted After the Stanley brothers took the settlement, there wasn't much left to the case. Suge walked away with 5 years probation. Now here's where the drama really kicks in. It turns out the prosecutor in Suge's case, Larry Longo, while his daughter, Gina Longo, was trying to be the next Mariah Carey and got a record deal with Death Row. Suge signed her for $50K. Suge was actually living in the Longo family's Malibu beach house while this whole court case was still active. Eventually word got out, Longo got fired, but Suge Knight got away. He didn't just beat the system, he hit it with a bat, shook it down, and gave its daughter a record deal. He turned a violent felony into a networking opportunity, got his enemies in boxes, and turned prosecutors into fucking collaborators. That 1995 plea deal was supposed to be justice, but all it proved was that if you have enough money, muscle, and death row behind you, jail is optional. The brothers got a check, the DA got exposed, and Suge, he got more powerful. Now around this time, something happened to Tupac, which is a key moment because this moment is basically the reason Tupac signed with Death Row Records, and this was the trigger that set the East vs West Coast war off. Tupac got shot 5 times and says he was set up by Biggie and Diddy.
Tupac was in the lobby of the building. 3 gunmen entered. They demanded jewelry and cash. Then he was shot 5 times.
That's Sean Diddy Combs outside as police arrived on scene.
November 30, 1994, Times Square, NYC, Tupac Shakur rolls up to Quad Studios to lay down a verse for Little Sean. As he approaches, he hears familiar voices from Little C's and Junior Mafia. They're all the way up on the balcony and they're screaming at Tupac. They're excited to see him and they tell Tupac to come in the lobby. But when Pac enters the building lobby, 3 masked men roll up with pistols. They tell everyone to hit the floor, but Pac stands frozen. He thinks it's a setup and goes for his gun. That's when they shoot Pac 5 times and rob him of $40,000 worth of jewelry. At first, Tupac doesn't blame Biggie or Bad Boy. In fact, he told Vibes magazine, "I don't think Biggie tried to set me up, but I know for a fact that he knew who did it." He felt like Biggie and Diddy could have warned him if they knew something was coming. The next day he goes to court and gets sentenced to jail for a sexual abuse case. This is where everything changes. While he's locked up in jail, nobody from Bad Boy Records visits, nobody reaches out. Biggie drops "Who Shot Ya?" and Tupac feels like Biggie's just taunting him with that track. He starts feeling like Stretch or Jimmy Henchman, the guy who arranged the studio session, might have orchestrated it.
Did you or did you not have anything to do with him being robbed or shot at Quad Studios in 1994?
Absolutely never even knew about it, never heard about it before, afterwards.
And when Suge Knight visits Tupac in jail and starts talking business, Tupac starts plotting his comeback and his revenge.
Shot me. I'm still here. All 5 bullets touched me, but you couldn't kill me. So all you did was really just give me that much more ambition, that much more drive.
This was the first spark that ignited the beef between the West Coast and the East Coast. But what happens next took the last altercation and magnified it by 10. This is the moment Suge Knight hops on stage and starts the East vs West Coast War. August 3rd, 1995, the Source Awards are happening in New York. On one side, you've got Puff Daddy with Biggie Smalls, Junior Mafia. Biggie's just won the rap album of the year for Ready to Die. On the other side, you've got Death Row Records, Suge Knight, Dr. Dre, and Snoop Dogg are still riding high with the Chronic and Doggy Style, and they're bringing that G-Funk thunder from the West. At this time, Tupac's still in prison, healing up after getting shot up in that infamous studio lobby shooting, and he's thinking Biggie and Diddy set him up. The room's so tense, it's like a pressure cooker's ready to explode. Then Suge Knight wins an award, rolls up to the mic like he owns the building, and drops one of the most nuclear bars in hip-hop history.
I'd like to tell Tupac, keep his guards up, we ride with him.
Tupac, keep your guard up, we're riding with him. He's basically insinuating that he also thinks Biggie, Diddy, and the East Coast have something to do with the shooting. The East Coast crowd are already starting to boo, and then he says this.
I like to say, any artist out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the video, all on the record, dancing. Come to Death Row.
This was a direct shot at Diddy. Suge is clowning Diddy's habits of dancing and ad-libbing in his artist videos and songs. Immediately after this, the Source Awards becomes a coast-to-coast showdown. The very next award is Producer of the Year, and when Dr. Dre is announced as the winner, all of the East crowd is booing. And as he's accepting his award, Snoop Dogg can't take it anymore. He grabs the mic and unloads on the crowd.
What? Wait. The East Coast don't love Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg? The East Coast ain't got no love for Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Death Row?
The drama didn't stop. When the televised show ended 1 month after the Source Awards in September '95, Suge and Diddy were having an argument outside of a party in Atlanta, and one of Diddy's boys ended up shooting and killing Suge's friend that he was with.
The middle of the street, Puff and Suge, outside in Atlanta. And
this is at your party.
Yeah,
but not just them.
It's a very hostile conversation. All I know is Puff started drinking his champagne, and next thing I know, Wolf, rest in peace, he let off a shot and let off a couple shots, and Suge Man got killed right there.
The feud was no longer just records and speeches, it was getting deadly serious. By October '95, Suge had bailed Tupac out of prison and signed him to death row, basically enlisting Tupac into the fight. Tupac released his notorious diss track, Hit 'Em Up, in 1996, aimed at Biggie and Bad Boy Records. The East Coast responded back with diss tracks of their own. Biggie's Junior Mafia crew was accused of retaliating when Death Row's The Dog Pound filmed a video in Brooklyn and their trailer got shot up. Tragically, within 2 years, hip-hop's two biggest stars were gone. Tupac Shakur and the notorious B.I.G. were both murdered in drive-by shootings. So after Suge Knight basically started this East vs West Coast war, Dr. Dre was stuck inside the most toxic work environment. Lawsuits were flying, gangsters were in the studio, Suge Knight was walking around trying to start a fight with anyone he could, so Dr. Dre decided it was time to leave Death Row. Now, Dr. Dre co-founded Death Row with Suge. They were the original dream team. Dre was on the beats, and Suge had the baseball bat and the bail money. They had Snoop, they had Tupac, they had the game in a fucking chokehold. But over time, Suge started turning the label into more of a blood-soaked crime syndicate than a record company. It was less about dropping platinum albums and more about who they're gonna threaten next. So Dre said fuck it. He packed his bags, left all his masters behind, and gave up millions just to start fresh. And out of that came Aftermath Records. And Dr. Dre ends up signing a bleached blonde-haired maniac from Detroit called Slim Shady. By 2000, Eminem was hotter than Satan's armpit. He went multi-platinum, winning Grammys, and Dre was laughing all the way to the bank while Suge's Death Row empire was crumbling down. So Suge Knight, he's jealous. He's seeing Dr. Dre succeeding, Dre's making heaps of money, Eminem succeeding. So Suge Knight ambushed Eminem with a gang of bloods at the Source Awards.
M was walking to his seat, I'm standing off to the side, and M was cut off on his way to his seat, and all these guys in red shirts surrounded him. And I'm looking at M's face, and I'm looking at these guys, I'm like, shit, something ain't right. And next thing I know, you see all these guys talking about Death Row, motherfucker, Death Row. Death Row, motherfucker, Death Row.
It's the 2001 Source Awards. Eminem shows up, D12's with him, Big Nas, his bodyguard, is with him, and the vibe's already weird. M gets an award, he's walking back towards his seat, and a pack of bloods swarm Eminem like the Kool-Aid man with a grudge. They surround him and start mean mugging him hard. One of them actually straight up say, Suge Knight sent us.
I was like, Death Row, what's it got to do with him? He said, hey man, Suge sent him a message. I was like, oh shit.
Big Nas sees this from across the room, so he sprints over and he's like, let's get the fuck out of here. He grabs Eminem, starts hauling him out of the aisle, and gets him out of there straight away. Now apparently Suge ended up saying something like he actually likes Eminem and he thinks Eminem's a hilarious rapper, and he doesn't really have a problem with Eminem. He was more trying to beef with Dr. Dre, and he's just trying to get under Dr. Dre's skin. But shortly after this, another crazy situation happens. Suge Knight pulled up with 30 Mexicans on 50 Cent and Eminem. It's 2003 and 50 Cent is shooting the In the Club music video. Dr. Dre's on set, the game's on set, G-Unit's on set. Then somebody runs up screaming like they've just seen a ghost. Suge's here, Suge Knight's outside, Suge's here.
He showed up to the In the Club video shoot. He came to, it was like, Suge's outside, Suge's outside. Everybody like, he was running, dropping shit, like, man, everybody going, I'm in front of the camera like this.
The lights cut out, the music stops, people are running left, right, and center. Suge pulls up to the video set with 30 Mexicans that look like they're from the Mexican cartel.
So Suge came, he had some Mexican niggas. Now we from New York. You ain't never seen a nigga with a tattoo on his forehead. 118th Street crew. I'm like, what the fuck?
This was Suge Knight's signature move. He didn't knock, he just pulled up uninvited, ready to shake people down. Now most rappers, they would hit the emergency exit so fast they'd leave their chains behind, but not 50. 50 Cent stepped up to Suge like, yo, what's up, man? What you want to do? Suge, he just stood there, didn't say a word, just lit up a cigar. He locks eyes with 50 Cent, turns around and leaves.
I just heard somebody say, Suge Knight's here. He looked at Fifth, and Fifth was like, what's up? What's up? And Suge just, like, he hit a cigar one time, and then he did like this little shit like that, wrap it up, and then everybody just turned around and left.
Even Eminem ended up stepping up to Suge.
So Eminem, 50, everybody outside, nigga light the cigar. I was bugging because I seen, this is when I knew Eminem was real. He's like, I don't give a fuck, man. This is when I knew, I'm like, damn, Eminem is a real nigga. These niggas
50 Cent was one of the few who stood up to Suge and didn't flinch. And if Suge was testing the waters to see if he could punk the shady Aftermath camp, he got his answer. These guys weren't scared. Suge Knight used to be the boogeyman of hip-hop, but at this point he's starting to look more like that drunk uncle at the barbecue starting fights over Bluetooth speakers. After 50 Cent shut him down, you'd think Suge would chill, but no, he finds himself wrapped up in a new drama. But this time it's over a $25,000 check, and it's with Akon of all people. Suge Knight threatened Akon, got knocked out, and then ended up snitching. Akon had a producer named Detail signed to his label, but Detail owed Ray J $25K. The problem was Ray J was signed to Suge Knight. So Suge does what Suge does. He rolls up to Akon like a bloodstained debt collector and demands Ray J's money. Akon tells him no problem. Detail's next check, we'll give $25K to Ray J, all good.
So I call Ray, I say, yo Ray, you know, does Detail owe you money? His next track or whatever we sell, up into 25 will go directly to you to pay you out until you're clean. And Suge said, okay, cool, no problem.
Everyone daps up, no problem, but a month later, the peace vanishes. Akon's in a club, Suge presses him again about the money.
I had a walkthrough at this club, you know, so he's like, yo, man, you know, where that money at? I said, well, goddamn, Suge, you broke? You need some money or something?
And this is over $12,500.
50% of 2,500.
Right.
I mean, 25,000.
Yeah.
I said, if you're trying to get the money before the money comes, that's a different conversation. Because you keep pulling up on me and shit.
Akon basically tells him, look, Suge, I'm paying you that money, I'm paying Ray J, and I don't have the money right now. Once Detail gets the money, he's gonna pay Ray J. Suge ends up leaving again, but a couple weeks later, he crashes one of Akon's parties uninvited, looking to intimidate and collect like it's 1996 again. But this time, Akon's road manager, Jar, steps in. Now this dude is just as big as Suge, and he ain't scared of Suge. He tells Suge straight up, yo, If you want to settle this, we can fight in the bathroom.
So Josh said, yo, we can go to the bathroom if you can fight, and we can fight if that's what you want to do. And he said at that point, Suge was like, motherfucker, I don't fight. I'll have your mother killed. You know, I'll have your whole family killed. I'll have... And Josh said he just had enough at that point.
He's heard enough. He swings on Suge, and Suge hits the floor like a dropped microwave. Security comes scrambling in, tasers are flying, cops show up, Suge ends up in hospital. But here's the twist of the century. Suge Knight, the guy who threatened and scared Vanilla Ice and Eazy E into signing contracts, the guy who's been terrorizing people for years, ends up snitching. He tells the police Ja assaulted him and tries to sue. This guy's been running around threatening to kill everyone's family, and now he's snitching to the police. After getting his jaw rocked by Akon's road manager in 2009, Suge Knight's aura started to crack. This man went from the industry boogeyman to a guy that was losing it all, but was too stubborn to change. Instead of rebuilding his empire, Suge spent the next couple of years spiraling down. Death Row Records was gone, his power was fading, his enemies weren't scared of him anymore, and between 2010 and 2014, Suge got in more lawsuits, nightclub fights, and ended up getting shot 6 times at a party hosted by Chris Brown. This was the beginning of the end for Suge Knight, which brings us to 2015 when Suge Knight ran over his friend and got a 28-year prison sentence.
Corner of Rosecrans and Central in the Compton area, where earlier this afternoon, like you said, and sheriffs are confirming Suge Knight was involved in a hit and run.
In January 2015, they're shooting the Straight Outta Compton movie, but the vibe is tense. Suge Knight rolls up in his red Ford Raptor like he owns the place, but the only problem is he isn't welcome. Security stops him at the gate, citing that Dr. Dre's got a restraining order with Suge's name on it. So security tells Suge to bounce, but Suge's stubborn. Then the security guy named Bone, who's a local OG blood, he sees Suge and starts telling him to bounce. Suge's like, I'm chill, I'm leaving. But Bone's not trying to hear it. They almost have a fight right there. Now to defuse this ticking time bomb, Suge phones an old friend, Terry Carter. Terry's a respected Compton businessman, an OG music promoter who's tight with Ice Cube and others. Terry's actually been trying to make peace between Suge and Dr. Dre and try to get them back in good terms. So Suge asked Terry to mediate. They agree to meet up down the road at Tam's Burgers, a famous Compton burger joint. So him and his mate Terry are parked up talking window to window at Tam's Burgers. Then Bone shows up and runs straight for Suge Knight's truck and starts swinging on Suge through his window. Suge panics, reverses his big-ass Ford Raptor, clips Bone, sends him flying. Then Suge looks behind him and sees more people coming his way, and he's scared they've got guns. So he floors it forward, and unfortunately, at this point, his mate Terry is in front of the truck, and Suge ends up running over his friend, and Terry Carter ends up dying. Suge Knight, the man who once ran the rap game like a goddamn mafia boss, the guy who made dudes piss themselves with a single stare, is now sitting in court rocking a jumpsuit the same shade as a traffic cone. At this point, the government's done playing with him. The DA threw the whole fucking library at him. Murder, attempted murder, hit and run. Suge's defense was, I was ambushed, self-defense, that man had a gun. But when you look at the security footage, it looked like a fucking demolition derby. Terry Carter, the poor man, never deserved to die that day. He was just trying to keep the peace, and unfortunately, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And when the judge dropped a $25 million bail on Suge's head, Suge collapsed right in the courtroom, straight up knocked out by reality. EMTs had to scoop him up off the tile like last night's leftovers. 3 years of legal bullshit later, switching lawyers like outfits, pulling the old my back hurts routine, Suge finally folds, takes a plea, 28 years, voluntary manslaughter. So now he's off the grid until 2040 something. No more cigars, no more red carpets, just sliding trays and stainless steel toilets. But the real tragedy out of all of this is Suge Knight had the blueprint for an empire. He could have been the Quincy Jones of gangster rap, a business mogul, a kingmaker, but he couldn't leave the fucking streets alone. He tried to run a $1 billion brand like it was still a neighborhood block party with AKs in the glove box. He had it all. He had the world in his palm, but he couldn't get rid of his ego and his pride, and you can tell just by looking at his life, he couldn't stay out of drama. Every month, every year, he had to start a new drama with someone. He had to start another fight with someone. He couldn't let things go. He couldn't just sit back, relax, and run an empire. His ego, his fists, and his red Raptor truck ran over everything he built. He was death row, and now he's literally on it. Game over.